Uh, that first session did run over our allocated time, but it was a very complex and interesting session. We move on to our second session of the day, which is also very complex and very challenging, the move to all IP. And we welcome Juliet Scott from Openreach, who will be covering a whole raft of areas related to the generic industry move to an IP-based network, together with the issues our members and the UK CP community generally need to be aware of and acting upon. And once again, if attendees can raise their questions in the Q&A box, the panel team after this session will attempt to answer them. And now I hand over to Juliet.
Thanks, Steve. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
We can. Thank you.
Brilliant. Oh my goodness, what's happened to my colours? Okay, so that's definitely not brand colours. Well, hopefully you can see that. It was supposed to be black. Okay, let's carry on. So I say I'm Juliet. I look after all IP migrations, working to James Lilly in Openreach, and obviously Openreach are a really big company. I'm sure you've heard of us, potentially buy lots of your products through us as well. So I'm going to start at the very beginning. I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker as well, Steve, so that we can get through where we've gone slightly over. And so I'm not going to talk too much about us because hopefully you already know who we are. However, you can have these slides to take away as well. We have over 690 communication providers buying many different types of products. But one of our biggest products is WLR. Obviously the product that runs off the PSTN, which is going to be withdrawn in December 2025, and that's what we're going to hear to talk about today. In terms of what we're doing to support that, a big statement from Openreach is that we're upgrading the UK broadband infrastructure to pass 25 million homes and businesses with full fibre by 2026. So I'm sure you've seen it in our press releases. We are building like fury. We're absolutely going for build, and the good news at the moment as well is that not only we're building like fury, we're actually installing like fury as well. So actually we're competing across the business as to how fast we can go and how fast we can connect. We're having week on week records of how many end customers have been connected, which is brilliant. I myself are a full fibre customer, and I can tell you that when it rains and when it dries again, I don't have the problems I used to have. It is a much better network, and I can get faster speeds, and my 3 children are very grateful to that. So that's what we're doing. We're building full fibre to complement our other IP products by 2026. And as I said, that is not we will get there by 2026. We're building pretty quickly before then as well. We're committed to building a balanced build as well, which I think is really key. I see lots of things, ISP review, etc., about kind of where we're building and how commercially, but I think it's really important that we have committed to build over 6 million premises in the rural and semi-rural areas. So we're a big company, 35,000 employees, of which you would imagine a lot of engineers, and a lot of support people, but mainly engineers in our teams. We've currently built out THP to 9 million plus, and I say every time I hear an update, it's gone up another 500,000 million. So it's really good that we're building quickly, 62,000 a week. And the other lovely thing is that we've got a really good take up. So 2.5 million end customers we have connected to our full fibre, which is fabulous. Can you move to the next slide, please, Leona? Thank you. Oh my goodness, really sorry these slides are not these colours on my screen. Okay, so you'll all, I'm sure, understand the picture on the left. Essentially, moving from the full copper version in number 1, where we have copper going through the cabinet to the home or business, and moving across to 2 and 3, where we have your Sagia going through the fibre going to the cab, and then the copper going to the home and business, and then obviously full fibre going straight from the exchange to the premises. And that's where we need to get to, around 12 million customers across that in the next couple of years. So, you know, key dates certainly is 2025 December is when the PSTN, the Public Switch Telephone Network, the intention from BT Group is to turn it off then. And they're obviously we need to move WLR customers off, because that product will be withdrawn across the PSTN. And really, as it closes down, voice calls will need to be over broadband. So, you know, we pass the love of voice calls onto communication providers, and we will be providing the broadband, and CPs will be providing the voice over IP. Working closely with CPs to migrate copper WLR lines to alternative fibre products. We've got, you know, FTTP, SOGEA, SOTAP and MPF currently available too. By December 2025. Some other key dates: stop selling new WLR across the UK from the 5th of September 2023. So that month and year has been in the public for quite a while, but we confirmed the date a couple of months ago. So the 5th of September, you will not be able to buy any new WLR. We do still see it's going down. We do still see some WLR orders every week. But we're working with those CPs who sell it, and we're trying to work through the journeys as to, do you really need to start thinking how can look at other products rather than relying on WLR still, and do you have those journeys ready? Because you know, we will have exceptions open September if there is a really good reason, but they will be tiny numbers that we'll go through. Somebody still needs WLR, such as if there's a voice pendant and it cannot be done on our IP. But we're expecting it's going to be very manual. We're going to keep it very manual because we want those numbers to be very low. But that's certainly a massive step in terms of withdrawing the copper. And really, you know, engaging with everybody. We're trying to get out there. We're potentially, you know, going above and beyond to engage with people. We don't just engage with CPs, we're engaging with local authorities, telecare providers, councils, lots of people, because we know how important this is. And unfortunately, it's not quite as straightforward as a digital to analog to digital TV switch. It's not a single date for everybody where something will stop and something will start. You know, we've given the date of December 2025, but CPs are doing different things. You know, some CPs have already stopped selling WLR. Some have plans to start to move everybody across early. So really, people have their own things, and obviously as well, for an end customer, it's difficult to understand. Do I even have WLR? Well, you could have WLR, you could have MPF. They both look the same in terms of being plugged into the wall. So it's difficult for an end customer. Certainly my mum, when I talk to her about what we're doing, she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand. And actually, she is just currently being moved over to SOGEA, and I've had to explain it to her, and I'm actually going to go and set it up for her. So, you know, we've got all of this complexity for potentially 12 million customers in the next few years. So we're busy. We're busy working with you guys as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so our plan. So I said we've got lots to do planned as well between now and December 2025. In terms of engagement, so we have had really great engagement, as I've said, with lots of people and lots of organisations, Ofcom, OTA. David's on the call today. We work really closely and get really good advice, and we challenged quite heavily as well by the OTA to make sure that we're doing the best thing for the industry. I haven't actually put FCS on here, but I have to say, as the organisation, also really good at challenging and making sure that we absolutely got our eyes wide open to the challenges, and especially pushing for the business perspective. So we, you know, we've got a lot of residential, but we've got a heck of a lot of business that we need to think about the different approaches as well. So thanks Megan and Steve for keeping us on the right path with that. We've got product developments that I'm going to go through in a little while in this presentation, and certainly trials. So we've got Mildenhall and Salisbury, which I will go through on the next slide. Now Mildenhall is primarily moving to SOGEA, and Salisbury primarily moving to FTTP. So we'll take you through a bit about what's happening to them. And another, April's going to be very busy next year, because as well, April 2023 is when we're going to terminate the WLR contracts. So I'll go through that in a minute. We have a digital service test lab. So we have some of the big CPs have their lines, some of the all IP lines in our Judd Street office, which will be moving in the next year, but we'll also still have a test lab in our new headquarters in Faraday. And that's where telecare providers or alarm providers can bring across their equipment, and they can test on the different types of all IP lines across the different CPs that we have. So that's been really useful actually in terms of progressing for them, their compatibility. We've also got Exchange Exit, which is another program, but certainly slots right into what we're talking about today. And we are exiting 5 pilot exchanges, which are Kenton Road, Ballyclare, Carrickfergus, Glengormley and Deddington exchanges, and we will be consulting on further areas, as you may be aware, very shortly. And for those ones, it's really difficult because we don't have the ability to exempt lines and say, it's okay, I know you can't have all IP, we'll keep you on WLRs. We can, you know, a little bit with Salisbury and Mildenhall, because actually it's Exchange Exit, we are actually moving across out of the exchange, so we have to move everybody out. So we have to really understand how we move people, and every line needs to be moved. We're working closely with lots of the people on the left hand side to look at vulnerable customers, probably one of our biggest area of concern really, to make sure that they are not left behind, but we think about them in every part of our journey, and every part of your journeys as well as a CP. And also as part of that, evolving the support our engineers provide. So, you know, how else can we help? Certainly in terms of the product developments, we're thinking about that, but actually how can an actual engineer themselves help move end customers across in a really successful way. And then in terms of timelines, so the next big date really is April 2023, and that's when our Salisbury and Mildenhall trials come to an end in terms of contract termination for WLR, SMPF and FTTC wear over WLR. Then we've then got September 23, as I said, for stop selling supply of new WLR in the UK. And then we've got the Deddington Exchange Exit for March, and then the other 4 pilot exchanges in September 2024, and then the big day of December 2025. So lots to do, but also lots to learn. And I think that's what we're trying to do really with our trials. If you could move the slide on, please. I really hope you can read this yellow writing. So in terms of our learning, you know, we've got 5 months to go. This has been going on for, you know, a good couple of years now. And being quite honest, you know, we've still got a lot to do. We're trying to work with CPs. We've got still thousands of customers to move, and we want to help CPs to move those customers across. But time is ticking. In Salisbury, it's mainly full fibre, so 95% of premises we've got coverage in Salisbury. And you know, customers do need a visit from Openreach in the vast majority of cases for full fibre. So we need to go in and drill out and put the ONT and the CSP on the walls and make sure the customer is connected. So really, you know, the more we can do now as of today, get those orders in, and the less we leave till the end, the better, because we do have to, you know, manage the service levels as well, and we want every customer to not be waiting too long. So it'd be good to get them kind of as a smooth approach, really. What we are seeing in the Salisbury trial is that the complex orders are being left. So we're having residential orders come through, but we feel as if the business, especially the business complex orders, are being left to last. So obviously we're looking at asset reports with CPs, working it through, you know, when are you going to do what when, and actually, you know, we've had some really interesting ones. I won't name the businesses, but we've had some big department shopping department stores move across with multiple CPs actually. So that's been quite complex, and we have had to knife and fork on that through because we are still learning about how to best work this, especially with multiple CPs. But we are leaning in and we're helping, and that's what we have committed to. So if we can do that for you and you have got assets in Mildenhall or Salisbury, then please do come across to us, because that's we're all trying to learn here and trying to make it as seamless as possible. So we're understanding things about our own network and testing our engineering journeys. And a really good learning for us has been about working with the council. So they have got their own campaign to tell people what's going on, their own citizens, and they're doing things on social media, making sure that people know that it's not a scam if their CPs contact them or if they see something out there, and they are themselves promoting what they need to do, and also moving them across their own council buildings as well. Mildenhall, so mainly CEGEA rather than FTTP. So easier journey from an Openreach perspective. We don't always, in fact, we rarely need an engineer to attend the customer, but it is for an end customer. So my mum's going through it at the minute. Actually, what do I plug in where? So it's changing of the router and making sure that the phone lines, the phones are plugged into the router rather than the NTE. So it's a good opportunity for CPs to learn, to test their end customer self-install journey. A really good, another working with Mildenhall Council and the telecare devices. So we know that the telecare devices that are supplied by Mildenhall Council themselves have all been upgraded to work with All IP, which is great, because it means that we know that if customers have telecare devices, that they can actually be upgraded to CEGEA, which is really good. And obviously we need to think about the private ones, but majority are provided by the council. So again, really good learning about how we work with councils, local authorities in these areas. We did also do a test and learn campaign where we had a coffee stall out, and we sent out some leafleting for people to learn a bit more about it, because we did feel as if there was a gap, because we didn't really have CPs telling people about what was going on. So we did a little bit of that and got a little bit of interest. People are more aware now, but still probably not as much, because we've still got a fair few number of customers to move. And that's kind of where we get to the 5 months to go. The concerns, I guess, that we have is that people, if you're a CP and you've got assets in Salisbury Mildenhall, then your contract for WLR and for SMPF and FTTC, where it is over WLR, will cease on the 19th of April 2023. And obviously we're looking to terminate end customers. We're looking, not the end customer themselves, just the line, because we won't have a contract with yourselves. So really we need CPs to be taking action. We've got a number of CPs who are not engaging with us. So if you're one of those customers who have not spoken to your migration manager or account manager, and you've not given us a forecast, please do that now. We need to not just understand that you're engaged and you're talking to your customers, but we also need to understand how that flow of resource will fit. So if we can see that everybody is planning to do all of the migrations in March, not ideal, but at least we can start to think about resource for March. We do have quite a lot of the base forecasted, but every single customer counts here. So if you can engage with us and you haven't already, please do. If you don't, I think we've got some details in this pack, but if not, even come to me, I'll point in the right place, because we really do want to engage with every single CP where we can. And we do find it's the CPs who are not engaging with us are the smaller business customer CPs who don't have lots of assets. They have a few, and even if your thought is, I don't mind if I lose these customers, I don't have an FTTP solution to move them to in Salisbury, so I'm just going to let them go. It's really helpful for us to know that, because then we understand what's going to happen to that customer. So to that end, we have asked for forecasts, and we are going to start continue with our supported migrations process in January and February. If we don't have a forecast from a CP, or we have a forecast but the migration volume is off track by over 5%, then we are going to start sending out end customer postcards to that CP's WLR base. And that's really to make sure that activity is happening, but also that end customers are aware. In March as well, and that should say March 2023, apologies, I'll change that, and that should say January and February 2023. Openreach plans to send a postcard to every live WLR customer unless they've got an exemption. So it doesn't really matter if you're engaged or not, we're still going to send every end customer a postcard, because we don't want to cut anybody off if they're not aware, and that's our way of doing that. And then after contract termination date, we are planning to safely halt service if a customer has not been migrated. And said we have been through before, but happy to do it again another time in terms of what that means and what service the end customer will get. So we're currently planning on for PSTN single lines will be a soft cease essentially, which is a stop. And that will mean customers can have 999 service, but obviously if they've got a pendant or something, they won't be able to get through to that service. But for ISDN 230 and multi-line PSDN, it will be a cease, and therefore there will be no dial tone, and you'll have to reapply. If you want that, you'd have to have a whole new order back on. So really important, we don't want anyone to go through that. We want to make sure that everyone's migrated safely, and if the customer can't be migrated, chat to us about exemptions, because we do have the ability to exempt where it cannot be for whatever reason be migrated. We can exempt, so please do get involved if you haven't already. Can I have the next slide, please? So as we know, as you all know, end customers are not all built the same. So we have residential, obviously lots of residential customers, but we have all sorts of weird and wonderful things that I'm learning about that go on the end of a WLR telephone line, telecare, lift lines, control traffic lights, monitor water stations, and customers have vulnerability or need help to set up. So things like we've got sluice gates, we've got hospitals, we've got all sorts of things that rely on our services. We've got an airbase in Mildenhall, and different ways and different things that we need to consider when doing these. And this is what the trial's about. If we didn't have these trials, we would be getting to December 2025 and start learning about this stuff, because it is being left to the end of the trial rather than at the beginning. But we are learning. It's really important that you engage with us if you've got anything like this, and we can certainly point you in the right direction. But there are also industry bodies that can help. Lots of industries and different providers are testing their own equipment and understanding whether they can work with digital or not. A lot of equipment can. So it doesn't mean that just because they've got something a bit unusual at the end of the line, it doesn't mean that you can't move to all IP, but you just need to make sure that it is compatible. Can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so just a really quick overview of some of the things over the next 6 months where our products are continuing to develop, because obviously we're not just standing still where we've got our FTTP and Sagia and SOTAP. We need to kind of keep making them better. Our WLR is I put the line in there just to make sure that everyone's aware. Every quarter we announce new FTT priority stops at exchanges. So while we have the big one in September, which is UK wide, and that essentially just stops WLR, every quarter we announce more exchanges which are where you can't buy anything apart from FTTP if it is available at that premises. So and we have around 350 exchanges that are currently live for that, and we tend to have about 50 a quarter being announced for the year after. So we that's all on our website, on the portal to know about. And then I obviously put the contract termination, the trials on the top line as well. For FTTP, we've got some pilots coming out end of this year and beginning of next. So the speed tiers, we've got 1.2 and 1.8 gig, which means that CPs can sell 1 gig and 1.5 gig. We're trialing those. We've got shallow build, which is primarily for business parks and allows us to start the build off, and then when we have an announced availability for the businesses and the premises in the business park, and then when we get the first order in, we build further out to that. So that's a pilot that's starting in December. And then we've got this doesn't sound very English, does it, in terms of what it means. Actually, it means that we're giving you a load more information in a really easy format. So if you want to know what went live yesterday in terms of where you can sell to for FTTP, you'll be able to do it by these 4 APIs that will be available. So we're stopping as much manual Excel spreadsheets over SDEDs and those ways of sharing it. It's actually going to be an API. So we've got 4 APIs. More than happy to share more details of those. But I think it's very exciting and much more dynamic in terms of sales and understanding what's happening with FTTP availability. January, we actually launched the Advanced Managed and Soft FTTP, so brilliant for businesses and complex sites where we can do more internal wiring up to 100 meters. So that's launching in Q4. And then for FTTP, we also have April, where we have additional services. So we're catching up in terms of some of the really useful things, again, for businesses: named engineer, SSRAMs, and out of hours appointments. So they are coming very shortly, which is great and should help some of the complex installs. And then for Sagia, we have the named engineer pilot in November. And then we do the advanced managed install, again similar to the FTTP one, launching in March with hopefully the Sagia named engineer in Q1. And then SOTAP. So SOTAP is currently in pilot. We need 400 lines, we've said, is our minimum level to check that the orders go through. And once we have them, we intend to launch at some point next year. So I think we're going to make a decision on launch dates in Q1. So it's probably, I just need to update that. And so we can come back and confirm launch in Q1. But we need some more orders to come through that. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of an insight in the terms of the products that we are selling. And it's really important that if there is something else that would work for you or that you want that we haven't got, that you need to feed that into the FCS, and we can certainly raise that and how we build that for you. If you can go to, I think this is the last slide. So just some things in terms of key takeaways, really. So if you were going to, print off any page and hang it on your wall, please use this one in terms of my presentation. The key dates are on the left. So talked about these too many times. So essentially, they're the dates for when key things are happening. The call to action: if you're a CP and you have assets obviously in the trial areas, but even if you have assets UK wide, as I said, we could start doing this with a year to go, but I think that's going to make it really difficult. So really now, I think also something, Lee, you said earlier about, different people coming in and selling products, people being really agile and different companies coming in. We tend to find that once an end customer has gone onto FTTP, they don't move. Certainly the swapping around is much, much less. And that's obviously why we're all building like fury. So getting there, I think there's plenty of potential. 12 million customers need to move, and I think some of the first movers who are out there selling will keep customers. So I think that's go out there and be the first ones to do it. Understand your customer base. We have asset reports in terms of WLR and the broadband products, and I think we've made them free to get. So if you consume direct from us, get your asset bases and start having a look at actually what type of lines you have, what kind of availability there is for those customers. We've actually also just upgraded our fiber checker as well, availability checker. So now you put in, even if fiber isn't available, it tells you what other products are available, and I believe it also tells you what stop sales coming as well. So that is enhanced data there. The exception and exemption process. So exceptions will be available beyond the trial. So exceptions are when you need WLR in an area, which is stop sell for an FTTP stop sell area, and it will be available as well once we get to September 2023. So if you want a WLR line and you need it, and we've gone UK wide stop sell, there is still the exception process to be used there. Everything is, we have clear principles internally. We are absolutely equivalent, and everything is judged on a case-by-case basis. And the minute it has been used really, really well. we expect it to continue that way. Exemption process is for the trials, and it's really to say, please do not do anything to my line at the end of this, because I have to keep it because of X, Y, and Z. And again, very similarly, line by line basis. And we're currently going through a lot of those following the forecast that we had about a month ago. So we're reviewing a lot of them at the moment. Engage with Openreach for support and planning. You know, we're here to help. Genuinely, we are here to help because we want to make this work. Identify any complex solutions and your vulnerable customers. I think, you know, the closer we get to the end of the trial, the more we're going to try and do to, you know, work with you to identify vulnerable customers. We don't want anyone to be impacted negatively if they're a vulnerable customer, and if there's any vulnerabilities there. And please make sure your agents are ready to deal with all IP customer inquiries. We know that some of the big CPs as well are going to start, you know, campaigning on this. We know that they are planning to be talking to the general public about what's going on and their own customers, and there'll be a halo effect. Customers will start to understand, oh, does that impact me? Do I need to get in, you know, do I need to talk to my CP? And therefore your agents will be getting more queries about what you're doing, about moving across. So please make sure your agents are ready and understand what they need to know. And then our support. So we've got account managers, migration managers. Please use them. If they don't know the answer, they will find the answer. The portal is being upgraded all the time. It's in my team. We're building collateral as well. So we've got a particular page on collateral, so you can download, and it's a white label collateral, so you can use some of the words that we have, and that's all free. And there's information before and after the login. Obviously stop sells on there. We've got lots of matrices in terms of what you can and can't order after stop sell. Please go and then have a look, and if anything not on there, please reach out and we can look at what we can add. We have a quarterly newsletter. There will be one shortly, currently being written. Again, lots of information on there. If you haven't already registered, please register for that. We have a working group call every 2 months. So we had one yesterday and we had over 200 attendees. So really useful. We have lots of attendees from lots of different places, including local councils. So we're very wide on that. But we do share what's going on, and people can ask questions. We had an open mic yesterday as well, so really good to get some questions in. And then we also have a steering group chaired by David in the OTA, but also very well attended by the FCS. So your views come across to us. You know, your views, if you pass them on to the guys at the FCS, they are being brought forward to Openreach, and we are listening. And I think that's the end of my presentation, Leona. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Juliet. And to your point, that last slide that you put up there is very powerful. And to answer some of the questions that come in the Q&A, we will be making the slides available on our website and also a recording of this event. So thank you, Juliet. What we're going to do, you know, we're running a little bit late. So thank you, Juliet, for shortening actually your slot. And for the panelists for this session will be Juliet herself. And actually, looking at most of the questions coming in, I think they're for you, Juliet. Ikra Latif, David Halliday, and Lee Turner. And when everybody's ready, we'll kick off with the panel questions. And I think the first one, Juliet, comes in and it says, in many geographies, even those that are in the early Openreach trial sites, there is still no FTTP service option in part of those geographies. What do we do with these customers, and what can we tell our customers to explain what's going on?
So I think in terms of moving across to all IP off WLR, we still have other options as well. So we have Sagia, which is all IP product, and SOTAP will be available where there is no FTTP or Sagia. So we still have options for those customers to order all IP services. I think it's difficult in terms of messaging. You know, we're building out, say, fast. We are potentially infilling some places as well, so we haven't finished our build in every place yet either. but we are at the minute trying to concentrate on the exchanges where we've started to build and really get them built. But we will not be covering every single premises in the UK with an Openreach service. There are many, there are many altnets out there as well. Obviously, we've committed to, I think, 80% of the UK. So I think it's those customers, they've got other options to move off WLR, and they'll be Sagia or FTT or SOTAP.
And I guess talk to you if they're your customers. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve, I've just seen a good question that's come in. I've actually seen a live example of in my inbox today. Do you mind if I ask?
No, please, because I was just going to go with a question from Martin, but that's fine. You go.
This one is from Martin. It might be the same one.
Oh, go on. Yeah, okay.
So if a line is ceased in error and stop sell is in effect, is there any exception to restore the line on the basis that the CP raises a port order over to an IP voice equivalent within, say, 24 hours to 48-hour period once the service is reinstated? Or can the number be reserved in order to port out?
Can I say that's a really good question? Is that how I deal with these?
I had one this morning actually from a member, so that's why it's pertinent, a different member here.
In terms of the actual line getting back in, so that is absolutely what the exception process is there for, if it's ceased in error. I think if we're seeing a lot of ceases in error from a CP, then we would have a chat with that CP. But certainly if a line ceases in error and there is no way that you can put you can move to all IP, then yes, we will assess that as an exception. I'm not quite sure about the number part of it. I think I'll have to get back to you on.
I can tell you on that one is that as from April, we will have to do right to port.
Which was my answer, yeah.
If you cease a service, it will have to be made available for porting out for 31 days minimum. So that is the EECC rules that come into effect in April.
I believe Openreach have already started that, haven't they?
They do, but that's only part of BT. The only part of BT that does it. There's the rest of BT have got to roll it out yet. So, but as an industry wide, we will all have to do that as from April. So when the service is ceased, put it in quarantine for 31 days.
And you're right, Megan. I think from an Openreach perspective, any number port that we get, if you cease that line, you've got 31 days to grab it back.
Right, thank you. Thanks for
that. Juliet, one for you. Is there any marketing material that we as a reseller can use, share with our customers and potentially new customers, and what again, to make them aware in a structured way of what's happening and what their options are of moving to FTTP, obviously?
Absolutely, and this is probably mentioned. This probably asked before I mentioned, but if you go to our portal, and if you go to the All IP program, we've got a section on collateral, and we're building it all the time. We're adding to it, but there is press releases. There are all sorts of different things that you can take from that social media posts, and it's white labeled, so you can take it and you can put your own branding on it. Absolutely. And if there's anything else that people think would be useful, please let us know. We can keep building it.
Okay, thank you. And another one, is there a way to understand what exchanges will be in tranche 11 or potentially tranche 12 before nationwide stop sell of 2023?
I love that. If only I had a crystal ball. So I'm part of the process as to where we decide where we're building in the next tranches. And there's a lot, we are being, I guess we fully appreciate that in earlier tranches, there's been movements and dropouts and things. So we're trying to be as accurate as we can. But 12 months of build, you don't always know how it's going to go and how difficult it's going to be. But we're trying to be as accurate as we can. So it's not like we're sat there with a big list. This is 11. This is 12. By the time we get to make that announcement, which will be I think 8th of Feb, or probably actually before, probably in January actually, we'll do tranche 11, but it's not decided before then. I don't have a pre-list, and then 12 will be, so they will be announced. It'll be January for tranche 11, and then May, probably end of April for tranche 12. So they will be announced before, but not before the 12 months notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And with regards to stop sell sites, can we expect Openreach to communicate out to end users in the same manner that they have for the Salisbury and Milton Hall trial sites, basically?
So the only bit of end customer communication we've done is the postcards, and they've been a very clear service message, and that's been about for when CPs haven't really been engaged with Openreach, if I'm honest. So we haven't done a massive campaign. We did a one in Mildenhall to see what could happen, but we don't think that that's really an appropriate thing for Openreach to do. I'm not sure what we'll do in terms of withdrawal near 2025. We'll have to look at that. And obviously this trial is for us to learn, so we are sending out postcards. We've got control groups and all of these. We're looking at, actually, does it make a difference? Are people responding to it? Are people in the non-control group, you know, are they actually migrating? But in terms of stop sell for September, absolutely not, no.
Okay, and last question, sorry I'm jumping around here, and this is something actually I've discussed with you at the industry meetings, Juliet. We've got a few customers in one of the trial areas, and we know we need to move them from WLR to IP. Who can we speak to in Openreach?
Oh goodness. Well, you can certainly contact me to start with.
Okay.
We have if you've got an account manager, or we have migration managers. We actually also have an email address for general queries, but I don't have it on me, and unfortunately I haven't memorized it yet. So how about, Steve, when the slides go out, I pop that on the slides as well?
That'd be really good. So if you can send us some update, you know, your updated slides,
I will.
and put that on, and then we put that on our website. It's there for members to refer to. Juliet, that'd be really good.
And even, Steve, actually, sorry, on our website, I'm sure we've got contact details. So have a look at the website, and if not, contact me, or I will certainly include it in the slide pack.
Okay. Thank you very much, Juliet, and the panelists. We're going to close this second session now. Because we're running so tight on time, we're just going to have a 2-minute changeover, really, break. And then we're going to start the third session with on competition. And that session will start at 3:35. We'll put we'll load the new slides on. You will get some polling. There they go. You can see some polling questions on your screen if you would be good enough to answer those. And following that, we'll move into the next session quite swiftly so that we try and get back on track.